Hello and welcome. This is Jennifer. I have another organization video for you today, and this one is actually about how I stay organized. So I have put together a container that has all the supplies I need to organize my stamps, my dies, and my stencils. Now I have this container ready so that whenever I have new products come in the mail, I can immediately put them in their pockets and have them organized. This is really important for me to be able to do this. This is my job, so I got to stay on top of things. And if I don't put things right away, then it builds up and I have a mess and it just takes forever. So I found that by taking a few hours to put this container together, I'm prepared for when I have new products coming in, and it saves me a ton of time in the long run. You'll see in here I have a ton of pockets ready to go. You really don't have to have that many ready. I just did a bunch at once while I was at it, so I'm good for a long time. And I also keep my label maker in there, so everything is ready. All I have to do is grab this and I can organize and be done, and then I have more time to create. In this video, I will give you a look at the various pockets that I use for storage, and I will also talk about the inserts that I create to go inside each of them, and the container that I hold all of this organization stuff in. I will also give links to other videos where I give more detail on how I store these pockets once I have them labeled and ready to go. Okay, so let's talk about the container that I use to keep all these organization goodies in. This is a Linus container. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I use a lot of these containers in my craft room because they're clear and super strong. Now, I will link to the one that I use. I think the size is pretty good for this, and there's room for the label maker to be kept in the front also, so that you can just have everything you need in one container. I really like this container. However, my guess is that you might have something at home that would work for you already. And real quickly, speaking of label makers, I really like the one that I use, and I have a video, which I'll link to here and in my description below, on how you can conserve the amount of tape you use with that label maker. So be sure to check that out if you haven't before. Okay, so let's dive into the contents of this container. Now I have all of my storage pockets in this container, and I have dividers separating them. A lot of people ask about the dividers that I use, so I thought I'd mention it here. I get plastic folders. You can either get them online or at an office supply store. They're just plastic folders with pockets, and I cut them up to get this durable plastic. You could also laminate cardstock sheets and create your own if you want to. I actually found this more cost effective. Especially this time of year, you can get plastic folders, really cheap because they're all on sale for back to school. Okay, so these are measured. I have these cut to about 7 1/4 by 9 inches, and I use my corner rounder to round the corners, and then I print a clear label across the top. These are the same type of dividers that I use in my stamp storage and in my die storage, which I'll talk about in a moment. But I have them for dividers for the different type of storage pockets I have here in this container. So as I mentioned, I have white cardstock inserts that I put inside all of my storage pockets, just for added durability and a nice look. I'll be showing you these in a few minutes, but first I wanted to talk about the insert cheat sheets that I created. I found I was always forgetting the exact dimensions I needed to create more white cardstock inserts. So I created these cheat sheets. I made mine out of yellow plastic folders, just like I use for the dividers. And I put a label across the top and the exact dimensions on that label. So now anytime I need more white inserts for my stamp pockets, I can grab this and I know the exact dimensions that I need. So you can see this is cut to be the same size as that white insert that I have put in my clear plastic pockets. Now, instead of cutting all these white inserts myself, I cheat and I take them to Kinko's. And here is what I do. I have my cheat sheet ready here. I'm going to just draw or trace lines onto a piece of white cardstock. This will be a guideline for Kinko's to cut these for me. You can go to almost any office supply store and they have a machine that can cut massive quantities of paper at once, and it only costs a couple bucks a cut. So you can cut a bunch of these at once if you want to. So this is exactly what I do. I write the measurements in here and I draw the lines so they know where to create the cuts, and it saves me so much time. But even if you are cutting your own white cardstock inserts, I think it's helpful to have this cheat sheet so you can easily know what size to cut. Now, the white cardstock I use for these inserts is an inexpensive white cardstock from Neenah. I don't think you need to use anything of high quality at all. And I will link to the Neenah cardstock I use. It is a different Neenah cardstock than I use for my regular crafting. It's a lower quality, but it works perfect for this. Okay, so now that we have all the basic information out of the way, let's look at each specific storage pocket that I use for my various craft supplies. First of all, let's talk about the most popular one, and that is the stamp pockets I use for regular size stamps. So these are any clear stamp sets that are 4x6 or smaller, or cling stamps. So this is the size white insert that I use, and I will have all of this listed over on my blog. And here are the stamp pockets. Now, the stamp pockets that I use are from Avery L. They're available in packs of 25. Simon Says Stamp also sells stamp pockets that are very similar, and they're in a pack of 50. These stamp pockets are pretty durable. They have a flap on the top that you can tuck to make sure nothing falls out. And if I have smaller stamp sets, I usually put 2 per pocket. If I have coordinating dies, I put them in the back of the pocket. I have been using these stamp pockets for years, and I cannot recommend them enough. I would say that about 95% of the stamps I use fit in those pockets, but there are a few that don't. Now, there are some companies, such as My Favorite Things, who make some stamp sets that are taller. These are 4x8 stamp sets. Now, you could put these inside the regular stamp pockets that I just showed you, and they would stick out the top, which is perfectly fine. However, if you're a little uptight like me, you may want a stamp pocket that would fit this a little bit better. So I have found some tall stamp pockets, and that's what I use, and this is what you see here. These are tall enough to hold this. Now, the difference with these stamp pockets is they're thinner, so they're not as durable as the ones I showed you before, and there's no closure. But I have found these have worked great. I've been very happy with using these, and I just store these in with my other stamp pockets, and they're just a little bit taller. There aren't many companies that make this size stamp set, but I think it's good to have these pockets on hand for these particular size stamps. Now, the particular clear pockets that I use for these stamps come a little bit taller than 8 1/4 like you see here. So I actually cut a little bit of the plastic off the top of the clear pockets, but that's okay because a trimmer will actually cut through several pockets at once. I just like to make these as short as possible so they don't take up too much room on my shelves. I think it's great to have a pocket that fits these stamp sets, but again, you could always use the regular stamp pockets and just have the top stick out. It is totally a personal preference. Okay, so those are the stamp pockets I use for most of my stamps. If you are interested in seeing a video about how I organize these stamps, what containers I use, and how I divide them up, please click here or in my YouTube description below to watch a video. It gives all the information that you could ever need. And the system is really working great for me, and I know many of you have taken the system on and like it also. There are a couple other stamps that I do have pockets for. One is for large stamp sets that are about 6x8. I've been getting a lot of questions about this, so I wanted to be sure to share it. I have a larger stamp pocket that I use for large stamp sets like this. There are a few companies that do large sets, including W+9 and Altenew. Now, I will tell you, the stamp pockets that I have for these stamp sets are pretty snug. I wanted to make sure these pockets were as small as possible so that storage would be easier. So you can see it fits very snug in here. Sometimes a stamp set is a little too wide, and I just trim a little bit of the extra plastic off the side. Now, these are the thinner pockets again, but I haven't had any problems with it, and there is no flap on these, but again, I haven't had problems. The clear pockets come a little bit tall, and I trim them down to be 8 inches tall because again, I really want to minimize how much space this takes up. I have liked using these pockets for these large stamp sets because I don't have to worry about anything falling out. Since these stamp sets are so much bigger than the others, I do store these separate from my other stamp sets. And by the way, with all of these stamp pockets and white cardstock insert sizes, I'll have all the sizes listed over on my blog so you can find them very easily. There is one more type of stamp pocket that I use, and that is for background stamps. These include cling stamps that are 6x6 square or smaller. I really like having all of my background stamps together so I know where to go when I need one. Now, these pockets are very thin, and I do cut the flap off the top so they are open, but I don't really think you need much more when you just have one large stamp in there. For a long time, I didn't keep my background stamps in pockets, and I finally put them in, and I'm able to label them now and keep them in some sort of order, and I like that I don't get ink everywhere. It just keeps everything nice and tidy. I do have some background stamps that will fit into the original stamp pockets I showed you at the beginning of this video, but I switched them all over to these bigger pockets so all my backgrounds could be together. I also have a video on how I organize these background stamps, the container I use, etc., and I will link that here and in my YouTube description below. So that's a look at the various stamp pockets I use, and hopefully some of them will work for you also. Now there are a few other type of stamps out there that don't fit into the pockets I mentioned, such as the Tim Holtz stamps. I just have those stored separately, and I just know to go and look there also. Now this brings us to one of my favorite products, and that is dies and the pockets that I use for them. I've been using these pockets for some time now and I really like them. They're smaller than the stamp pockets. They're very thick. They have a flap that you can tuck in to close. And I find that these hold most of my dies. Even my border dies often fit diagonally in these pockets. I like that they're a little bit thicker because dies are metal and I don't want anything poking through. And I've been really happy with this. These pockets were actually intended to hold a CD or DVD, so you can buy them in large quantity packs. Now, I do use these for most of my dies. However, sometimes there are dies that don't fit in these pockets. In that case, I use my regular stamp pockets, the Avery L ones, and I have a section in my die storage for larger die sets. If you are interested in watching more about my die storage system, I have a video that I'll link here and in my YouTube description below. The last type of storage pocket I use is for stencils. Now I will say you could instead use the same pockets that I talked about before for background stamps. Those would work for stencils too. I just came up with these stencil pockets before I came up with the ones for background stamps. The background stamp pockets are a little bit bigger. Okay, so stencil pockets. These are very thin once again, and I cut the flap off the top. So basically it's just a sleeve that kind of protects other things from your stencils. So if you have an inky stencil or don't clean it completely like I tend to do, you can be sure that it won't get onto anything else and it won't tangle up with other stencils. I will say that a few of the brands of stencils that I have are taller and will stick out the top of these pockets, but that doesn't really bother me. I just want something to keep them in, to keep everything tidy. If you'd like to see a video on how I store my stencils, I will put a link here to the video and in the YouTube description below. So that wraps up the type of storage pockets I use. Now in my little Stay Organized container, I have all of my pockets with the inserts in it ready to go. So when I get a new product in the mail, I can take them out of their original package, put them right into one of these, and then go ahead and print the label. I hope this information was helpful to you. I've been getting a lot of questions, so I wanted to make sure I put a video together with all the information in one place. And remember to go to my blog. I took a lot of time to really write everything out, all the measurements, the sizes, the options, so I'm hoping it's helpful to you. Also, if you are interested in more organization videos, I have a YouTube playlist, which you can click here or in the description below, and there might be some helpful information for you there also. I really feel that by staying organized, you can find much more time to create and much more energy to create. Now, as always, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below, or you can go over to my blog at jennifermcguireinc.com. I link to the supplies that I talk about here in my description and over on my blog. Thanks so much for spending some time with me here today. I appreciate you watching, and I hope to see you again soon.